Chapter 3. As for Tess Durbeyfield, she did not so easily dislodge the incident from her consideration. She had no spirit to dance again for a long time, though she might have had plenty of partners, but they did not speak so nicely as the strange young man had done. It was not till the rays of the sun had absorbed the young stranger's retreating figure on the hill that she shook off her temporary sadness and answered her would-be partner in the affirmative. She remained with her comrades until dusk, and participated with a certain zest in the dancing, though, being heart-whole as yet, she enjoyed treading a measure purely for its own sake, little divining when she saw the soft torments, the bitter sweets, the pleasing pains, and the agreeable distresses of those girls who had been wooed and won what she herself was capable of in that kind. The struggles and wrangles of the lads for her hand in a jig were an amusement to her, no more, and when they became fierce she rebuked them. She might have stayed even later, but the incident of her father's odd appearance and manner returned upon the girl's mind to make her anxious, and wondering what had become of him, she dropped away from the dancers and bent her steps toward the end of the village at which the parental cottage lay. While yet many score yards off, other rhythmic sounds than those she had quitted became audible to her, sounds that she knew well, so well. They were a series of thumpings from the interior of the house, occasioned by the violent rocking of a cradle upon a stone floor, to which movement a feminine voice kept time by singing in a vigorous gallopade the favourite ditty of the Spotted Cow. I saw her lie down in yonder green grove, come love and I'll tell you where. The cradle rocking and the song would cease simultaneously for a moment, and an exclamation at highest vocal pitch would take the place of the melody. God bless thy dimmet eyes, and thy waxen cheeks, and thy cheery mouth, and thy cubits thighs, and every bit of thy blessed body. After this invocation the rocking and the singing would recommence, and the Spotted Cow proceed as before. So matters stood when Tess opened the door and paused upon the mat within it, surveying the scene. The interior, in spite of the melody, struck upon the girl's senses with an unspeakable dreariness. From the holiday gaieties of the field, the white gowns, the nosegays, the willow wands, the whirling movements on the green, the flash of gentle sentiment toward the stranger, to the yellow melancholy of this one-candled spectacle, what a step! Besides the jar of contrast, there came to her a chill of self-reproach that she had not returned sooner to help her mother in these domesticities, instead of indulging herself out of doors. There stood her mother amid the group of children, as Tess had left her, hanging over the Monday washing tub, which had now, as always, lingered on to the end of the week. Out of that tub had come the day before, Tess felt it with a dreadful sting of remorse, the very white frock upon her back which she had so carelessly greened about the skirt on the dampening grass, which had been wrung up and ironed by her mother's own hands. As usual, Mrs. Durbeyfield was balanced on one foot beside the tub, the other being engaged in the aforesaid business of rocking her youngest child. The cradle rockers had done hard duty for so many years under the weight of so many children on that flagstone floor that they were worn nearly flat, in consequence of which a huge jerk accompanied each swing of the cot, flinging the baby from side to side like a weaver's shuttle, as Mrs. Durbeyfield, excited by her song, trod the rocker with all the spring that was left in her after a long day's seething in the suds. Nick-knock, nick-knock went the cradle, the candle flame stretched itself tall and began jigging up and down. The water dribbled from the matron's elbows, and the song galloped on to the end of the verse, Mrs. Durbeyfield regarding her daughter the while. Even now, when burdened with a young family, Joan Durbeyfield was a passionate lover of tune. No ditty floated into Blackmoor Vale from the outer world, but Tess's mother caught up its notation in a week. There still faintly beamed from the woman's features something of the freshness and even the prettiness of her youth, rendering it probable that the personal charms which Tess could boast were of in main part her mother's gift, and therefore unknightly, unhistorical. "I'll rock the cradle for 'ee, mother," said the daughter gently, "or I'll take off my best frock and help you ring up. I thought you had finished long ago." Her mother bore Tess no ill will for leaving the housework to her single-handed efforts for so long. Indeed, Joan seldom upbraided her thereupon at any time, feeling but slightly the lack of Tess's assistance, whilst her instructive plan for relieving herself of her labours lay in postponing them. To-night, however, she was even in a blither mood than usual. There was a dreaminess, a preoccupation, an exaltation in the maternal look which the girl could not understand. "Well, I'm glad you've come," her mother said, as soon as the last note had passed out of her. "I want to go and fetch your father, and what's more'n that, I want to tell 'ee what have happened. You'll be fess enough, my poppet, when's know." Mrs. Durbeyfield habitually spoke the dialect. Her daughter, who had passed the 6th standard in the National School under a London-trained mistress, spoke 2 languages, the dialect at home, more or less, ordinary English abroad to persons of quality. "Since I've been away?" Tess asked. "Aye." "Had it anything to do with father's making such a mommet of himself in the carriage this afternoon? Why did her? I felt inclined to sink into the ground with shame." "That were all part of the larry. We've been found to be the greatest gentlefolk in all the country, reaching all back long afore Oliver Grumble's time, to the days of the pagan Turks, with monuments and vaults and crests and scutcheons and the Lord knows what all. In St. Charles's day we was made Knights of the Royal Oak, our real name being d'Urberville. Don't that make your bosom plim? 'Twas on account of that your father rode home in the Villy, not because he'd been drinking, as people supposed." "I'm glad of that. Will it do us any good, mother?" "Oh yes, 'tis thought that great things may come on't. No doubt a mampus of folk of our own rank will be down here in their carriages as soon as 'tis known. Your father learnt it on his way home from Shaston, and he's been telling me the whole pedigree of the matter." "Where is father now?" asked Tess suddenly. Her mother gave irrelevant information by way of answer. "He called to see the doctor to-day in Shaston. It is not consumption at all, it seems. It is fat round his heart, 'a says. There it is, like this." Joan Durbeyfield, as she spoke, curved a sodden thumb and forefinger to the shape of the letter C, and used the other forefinger as a pointer. "At the present moment," he says to your father, "your heart is enclosed all round here and all round there. This space is still open, 'a says. As soon as it do meet so," Mrs. Durbeyfield closed her fingers into a circle complete, "off you will go like a shadder, Mr. Durbeyfield, 'a says. You mid last 10 years, you mid go off in 10 months or 10 days."